like you had here, and then the major one that you had here, and say, you know what, I think... All right, everybody. So to say this was a wild day and it just keeps getting wilder is an understatement. So first and foremost, it did look on the indexes like we were going to come in. And then we did not do that. We're going to address that at the end. So stay to the end. But we need to talk about Facebook and what's going on. Tonight's call is going to be a little different. I'm not going to get into the earnings numbers and revenues. I'm going to give my opinion of them. But I don't have time to go through all that with everything that I want to cover tonight, because there's a lot of stocks that we have to go over. So we're just going to talk about them in general terms. So let me just get right into it. Okay. This revenue was in line to missing, but the earnings crushed. So it shows that they're getting lean and mean. Now, this is kind of interesting because we heard calls all week of rumors of, quote, hiring freezes, rumors of, quote, layoffs. Maybe some of that's true in some departments, but it's very interesting to see what they did to their earnings and how quickly they were able to save their earnings on inline revenue. So that's gonna drive the stock up, and it's doing exactly that. Now the question becomes, what happens here? Well, barring them just having one of the worst conference calls of all time, this is not coming back down anytime soon. So you have everybody that was short here. If you open here tomorrow, you are trapped, right? We're going to speak very technical tonight. Very similar to what we saw with Microsoft, right? And that's what I said, we're gonna hop around a little bit tonight. So see how you're trapped? You have to look at these patterns. See how you're here and then you gap up to here? You're trapped, okay? I tried to short this today. I spent the day in and out of it. At the end of the day, I made little money to break even. I just couldn't get it really going today on that trade. But on to the next one. So what you see happening here is you see something very similar. I don't see any reason to expect this to all of a sudden roll back down. They have everybody trapped. Nobody is long this. No institution is buying Facebook into that number, especially, and if people say they were, I don't believe them, because let me just walk you through this, okay? You don't have a blow up like you had here, and then the major one that you had here, and say, you know what? I think this time Facebook's really going to get it. I think they're really going to beat numbers. Nobody's doing that. Right? No one's risking billions of dollars here in their career on the Facebook call. It's just not happening. So now you're going to have people chasing. So that's the first one. Put this on your radar tomorrow. It's very hard to give you a level on where you should look at it right now. I'm spending a lot of time on it. I would tell you that I do think it's realistic for this to even get to this 216.77 tonight. We have not had one 15-minute down bar, and that's why I'm spending time on this, because I think it's pertinent. Now, after hours, let's just look at the effect that Facebook is having. So this is where we closed after hours on the Qs. This is where you're at. We're going to go over the Qs in a little more detail in a bit, but we want to cover pins as well. Pins had a blowout quarter, absolute blowout. Now, I don't know that we're going to be able to get out of our own way here, but it is possible. It is possible that we do get out of our own way. So I don't know where you would focus on buying this because the chart's so broken. So the very first thing that I tend to do when a chart's that broken and I don't know where to go with it is I just focus on the first 15 minutes. And by focusing on the first 15 minutes, I can get a sense of where I want to be. So I'm going to watch this 22.10 level tonight and tomorrow and go from there. But their quarter was very, very good. It can't take anything away from them. We're going to talk about a couple disasters in a minute, but let's just keep going with good news, because it's been so long since we've actually had good news and good earnings. Now, we did with Lamb Research and ASML. We have to kind of see how this plays out. Reminder, Apple is tomorrow night and Roku is tomorrow night. So you can see I'm jumping around a lot here today because there's a ton that I want to go over in this short period of time. But let's just focus on Qualcomm for 1 second here. And let's just talk about this move. So all I would do is the same thing. You cannot possibly look at this chart and go, you know what, I really got to buy this. I mean, look at this downward trend, right? We don't even need the indicators, but you can just see that, it's just an absolute disaster. So without even needing the indicators, without looking at any of that stuff, all we want to do is focus on something very simplistic. A 15-minute bar after hours gives you a great understanding of the true range of the stock. And a lot of people will use a 1 minute, and that's fine too. That can work. It's a little more aggressive. But if you use 15 minutes, it tells you where you're at. And you can see how we came back down here, tested, came up here and tested. So if you flip 145 tomorrow, you might want to watch this. This is definitely something to watch. Now, as far as companies that had just an absolute implosion, you have T-doc. Now, T-doc, you can see very clearly is down about 35% here, right? So let's just take a look at this, okay? So they wrote off, they bought a company about a year ago, Lavingo, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. And it was at the time, they were like, this is a really dumb merger. A lot of people were saying doesn't make any sense. Well, essentially today what they did was just write the entire company off. So within 12 months, they just lost several $billion. The exact number is still being calculated. There's a lot of things you have to go through to calculate the number and how much of the write-off they truly are taking from that. But the bottom line is it's not good. And this is the move down. Now, what's interesting about this is I don't know that you can actually short this here. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going higher, but you certainly wouldn't play this for a bounce. This is, just a bonfire. But, this is going to be very interesting to see because it's Ark's third largest holding. Now, this is where Ark closed, and it's where it's at right now. So I don't really understand how Ark's not even coming in on this. I would think that Ark would be getting hit really hard, and I'm only down 50 cents. Now that could be because Facebook is keeping the market up, but Facebook is not going to save T-doc tomorrow. So I think that you might want to look tomorrow, and you might even want to think about it tonight, depending upon how aggressive you want to be, that even with the market rallying, Ark might sell down tomorrow because I don't know what they're going to do with that position. That position right now is down 38%. Just so you understand, that's not mark to market in Ark's NAV right now. So wherever Ark's NAV right now, you could actually go and calculate out the percentage of that holding plus the drop and take that right out of the NAV, and that would give you an understanding of where you're at. So, it could be $2, it could be, $3. I don't know. You'd have to do the math on it, and I haven't done that yet. I've been so busy just trying to get through everything because there's a ton going on tonight. Now, you have PayPal. This could have been disastrous. Okay. Nobody, again, did anyone think PayPal was going to have good numbers? Right? No. But they weren't good. But look what the stock did. It held. And that's what's important, right? What are these stocks doing? They're holding. So you can get tonight's calls a little different. I'm not giving exact levels because I don't know how you would look at this and pick an exact level. So all we can really focus on is that 15-minute range. And here's your first 15-minute range. So to me, this isn't a void until I'm over 90. But I would say I find it fascinating, the bounce that we've had here today. And I do think that what this bounce is setting up for, I do think it's telling us that we may be setting up to finally bottom. Now, tomorrow, reminder, you have Apple. Apple has earnings tomorrow. Roku has earnings tomorrow. And again, you can see how this is a much longer just review of what's going on in the market, right? So I want you to focus on this, and I want you to focus on those tomorrow and see how they act. That's where my focus is going to be. Now, everyone thought Apple was going to miss. Are they going to feel that way? Are they feel comfortable selling their Apple stock now after they saw what Facebook did? I understand it's two different companies, but how many good ideas are institutions going to be willing to be out of why this is going on? So I think that that's really important. Another sign that we saw today was just a lot of flim-flam, and I want to go over that. So Facebook, quote, the number comes on the screen and was on everyone's newsfeed as they missed, right? And the stock drops precipitously. What other nonsense did we have today? Beyond, okay? See, this is just true manipulation of the market. There's no other way to say it, right? We'll be reading about it in a month. But, okay, Beyond supposedly got a contract with McDonald's. It took them 15 minutes for McDonald's to come out and say, well, that's news to us. We have no idea what you're talking about. And the stock to drop 20 points, okay? We had it happen with Carvana, which is a stock that I love to short, and we see this pop up. Why did it pop up? Because Apollo bought $1 billion worth of bonds at 10.5% from JP Morgan. That transaction has absolutely nothing to do with Carvana and has everything to do with them getting it off of JP Morgan's books, and you have no idea what they paid for that. They could have paid 50 cents on the dollar. You have no idea what they paid for that transaction. So when you start seeing nonsense like this, there's some of the games that are going on, but that, to me, that's a bottoming sign when you see a lot of flim-flam like that. So let's just talk about this. Okay, this was the level that we had to hold today, and we held it, we undercut it, and now we've bounced. Now let's just talk about where we're at with pre and post data, and you can see where we closed and where we're at right now, and you can see with the pre and post data how we're doing. Now, you are far from out of the woods. But to state that tonight's earnings did not make things better is kind of an understatement. It did. So the fact that you're going to see companies have good earnings that were predicted to be, quite frankly, blow-ups, it's going to support this market. I mean, for how long, I don't know, but it's definitely going to support this market. And this is not something that I'd be rushing into, but could you bottom here? Yeah, you could. You could be forming a bottoming pattern right in here, and that's exactly what you could be doing. And that's something that you have to consider. So something to keep in mind. Now, the other thing that I want to focus on before we go are these two. Well, let's just focus on this to start. So this is the 10-year. This is crossing down. We still have the 5 and the 8 crossing, and this is rolling. I see no reason to think any differently about this. I still think that this might have topped here. And until we get back over that, I'm going to feel that way. I just see bond buying. So you could see tonight that how much stuff we actually have to go over and how things are changing. And here you are. I just want to point this out. We're going to wrap up with energy. And let's just look at the 50-day. You are fighting to get above that. Okay, and what you'll notice today is for the first time, if we zoom in here, okay, you closed at a higher high from this line. So that shows that you have buying. Now, whether or not you're going to fill the gap and get over remains to be seen, but energy names seem to make the most sense of all the trades here. I do feel that at the end of the day, you cannot be remiss in the numbers that we saw today and this evening coming out with Facebook and the response. So just keep that in mind. Have a great day tomorrow, everybody. Trade to win.